Hey everybody, Adam Small again from MyMusicMasterclass, and today we're going to do a really fun video, for once. This is a Glarry short scale bass, and if you haven't seen the review that we just did on this thing, you should probably watch it because it has a lot to do with what we're going to do today. Now, I already took the screws out of this thing because we are going to do some modifications in here, or at least one modification. I'm going to try to replace this pickup. This is a cheap single coil pickup. This is kind of like a 51 P bass or a Music Master, meaning that it has one single coil pickup, tone and volume. I'm going to replace this pickup with another pickup, and I'm going to show you what that is. This is a Fralin split coil 51 P bass pickup, and it costs $150. Now, for those of you who watched the last video, this bass costs $109.99 shipped to your door. So this pickup costs more than this entire bass. Now this is based on a 1951 precision bass pickup. The modern P bass pickup or precision bass pickup looks like two pickups staggered side by side. That was to get rid of hum. But before they started doing that, it was one single coil pickup, which of course will have single coil hum and all the stuff attributed to that, but it does have a different vibe than that pickup. So I'm interested in this sound. One thing to note is that Fralin designed this one hum canceling. This is a split coil pickup. It's actually not single coil. So you won't get the hum, but you should get the same or very similar sound to a single coil pickup, and I'm really excited to try this one. For the tech nerds out there, this is a 5% overwind on this pickup, so it should be a little hotter in volume, maybe boost a little bit of the lows, but essentially this is Fralin's split 51 P bass pickup, which you can find on their website or other places. So I've opened up this bass so you can see what we're working with here. It's a simple design, it's a simple circuit, it's passive, right? So this isn't on my workbench, this is just a piano bench, and I won't be soldering anything right here, but I just want to show you what we're dealing with. The first thing to note here is that this hole is pretty big that they routed. I thought when I opened this up that there was a possibility that I'd have to route this thing even more in order to get this new pickup to fit, but there's plenty of room. Now, pickup position is always a subject people talk about, and to be honest, it might be cool to have this pickup a little closer to the neck, maybe around here. Right now it's pretty central. It might be exactly in the center of this bridge and this neck. I might want it closer to the neck in the future, but for this video, we're just going to keep it exactly where this one is. We're going to mount it to the pick guard. One thing you might notice here, if you know about electronics, is that this pickup only has one wire coming out of it, which was very confusing when I first opened up this bass. Pickups are supposed to have two wires, a ground and a hot. In this case, in this Fralin, you can see that there's a black wire and a white wire. The white wire is the hot, the black is the ground. And if you don't have those, you're going to have a lot of issues. That being said, it's kind of an illusion because this red wire is housing two different wires, which I discovered. If you trace it all the way to the pot, you can't see it on this video, but you can trust me that this thing breaks out into a ground that's connected to the pot, and then there's a hot, and the hot goes to where it's supposed to go. So this is a pretty easy job actually if you have any soldering experience at all. Basically, this pickup is going to go to the same connections that this one is already going to. And if we were to put these next to each other, you'd see that they're very similar in size, the tops of these. And I'm hoping that it's going to pop right through and be perfect, although I know that's going to be impossible because nothing's ever that easy. So what I'll probably have to do is, pop this thing out, look at this hole, and I'll probably have to widen it a little bit with a half-round file or another device just to take off a little bit of plastic. But it looks really close, which is promising. All right, so fast forward to now, and I have put this pickup in here. And the mission has been successful. It's maybe not my cleanest, best work, but I used a file and I was able just to route a little bit out of this pickup hole. That was really the only thing I needed to do besides connect the wires. It just needed a little bit of space to pop this through. Now again, if I was really gonna do this, and I may do this in the future, I may go nuts and replace all the pots and the tuning pegs and the bridge, like I said, and maybe even mount this pickup to the body if I decide not to mount it to the pickguard itself in a more traditional way. But for this video, I wanted to do it quickly, and I wanted to show you what this thing will sound like, just making a simple modification like this to a very inexpensive bass. Let's turn the tone all the way up to 10. Not usually the way I'd have this bass set, but for science and for this video, let's turn everything all the way up. Well, that sounded much better than the original pickups in my opinion. I don't know about you all out there, but this is a big, big improvement. Now, one of the most obvious differences here, besides the tone, is the volume. The stock pickup that came with this bass was lower in volume or lower in level than pretty much any of my basses on the wall here or anything that I have in my studio. Of course, level is only one factor in this equation, and you could always raise your level of the stock pickups. You can always raise it with your amplifier or your software if you're recording. That being said, having a pickup that falls within that normal range of like not too hot, so it's not like distorting every preamp you put it into, and also not too, it wouldn't be cold. The opposite of hot isn't really cold in this situation, but you know, it'd be funny. Not too cold, no. Not too low, meaning that you might get some like background hiss or something like that when you start raising the track because it was recorded so quietly. But yeah, this is within a good level now. This is within a good range. To illustrate my point here, I actually thought ahead and recorded myself playing open strings on this bass with the stock pickups. And now what I'm going to do is play the same exact thing on this bass with the new pickups. I have the exact same settings going in. My amp and my DI are both going into the software at exactly the same level they were prior to my pickup change. And I'm going to try to play at a very, very, very similar level with my right hand here. And I am pretty consistent with my technique, so I'm hoping to get, you know, very little variance in this. Okay, so pretty obvious, right? The new pickups are definitely louder than the old pickups. But there's a reason that I just showed you that. Prior to me installing the new Fralin pickup, I did 2 tracks with the old stock pickups. I played along with just 2 grooves, and I did everything 100% dry, meaning no compression, obviously there's no reverb, but there's no effects of any kind. Also, the setup didn't change at all, but in order to make this a true A-B comparison now, since you already heard the difference in volumes, I have to match the volumes. Well, you might ask, why do I have to match the volumes of this pickup and the other pickup? Well, the tracks I'm going to play to have a drum loop, and it's really not a fair fight if you have one thing louder than the other. You won't really hear the tonal differences because your ear's going to be drawn to the fact that one thing is just louder than the other. I want you to hear the differences in the tone from these 2 pickups. So I'm just going to match this. I'm not using compression still, like I said. I'm just going to literally bump up the volume to make these a similar level, and you can hear the difference in frequency response and the difference in tone for these pickups. All right, so you heard a couple different grooves that I just played, and I hope you were wearing headphones. I know I said this a couple times in the video, wear headphones for best results, but it actually is important. Remember that I didn't add any EQ or compression to this, so this is a totally unprocessed signal. And if you want to hear the subtleties between these two pickups, it's really important to put those headphones on, because a lot of the low end and the low mid aren't going to pop through on a laptop speaker or a phone speaker or a tablet or whatever it is. If you have good studio monitors or really good quality, hi-fi speakers, then you don't have to wear headphones. But in order to hear what each pickup is really all about, it's important to really listen, and listen in a good environment. Like I said earlier in the video, these pickups were made with a 5% overwind, which means that the mid-range becomes a bit more pronounced and the sound overall gets a little darker. And that is what I heard when listening back to this video. And if you wanted to go the other way and underwind the pickup, the mid-range would be more scooped and the high end would shine a little more, and you could also just have it stock without an underwind and an overwind. Also, if you want to add another factor to this, this is a short scale bass, and short scale basses often have a little more low thump and low mid kind of thing going on. So this is an interesting situation. This bass now has kind of like this mid-range bark and low end to it that I don't have in my other basses, and that's cool because, again, I love interesting sounds to have in my palette. That being said, you might want something completely different, and you might prefer a really shimmery high end or more scooped mids or something active that's completely different. But for me, I like this for what it is and what it sounds like now, and I want to show you one more thing before we go. I noticed that listening back to what I played, and this is why it's good to listen to what happened before you make the outro of a video, so you know what you're talking about and you know what things actually sound like in the headphones. But anyway, I noticed that I played pretty light with a light touch on certain examples, and I wanted to dig in a little more right now just to show you how the bark of this pickup and this pickup in this bass, how it kind of translates. Alright, so I played a little bit with dynamic range there, but mainly I try to dig in pretty hard on at least 80% of it, so that you could kind of hear how this thing will cut through the mix in kind of a growly mid-range way, which is, again, what I'm looking for with this bass. And with that, we're going to end this video for now. I hope this video was helpful and that it gives you inspiration to maybe customize an instrument or do this or something similar. And that's it for now. Have a good one. See you later.